Sibyls and Oracles. We're going to talk about the Sibyls and Oracles tonight. Women's role in history. You all know that we just speak the facts here. And so there are going to be some things that a lot of people are going to disagree with, and that's okay. What I encourage you to do is to share what your research says. Now, if you haven't done any research, then hold your tongue. Go do some research and then come back and let's have an intelligent discussion. All right, we like intelligence here in this room. Everybody viewing has intelligence. If you don't have intelligence, then don't speak, because we're not talking to you here. This is not the room for you. All right. So also I need to say that there are a lot of lies that we have been told, and it's going to be hard for some of this stuff to be heard. This is why I always encourage you to go and do your own research. All right. Don't believe a word I say. Just go listen to the information. If you've never heard of it before, go do some research and then come back, and then we're going to have an intelligent discussion. Okay, let's go. Sibyls and Oracles. Women in history, or women's roles in history. Now, so I need to go back to this because one of the things that we are not aware of is that this planet originally was a matriarchal construct. Matriarchal. Ma as in ma. Ma meaning mother. And then the patriarchal came in. So patriarchy really is a newer construct where matriarchy went all the way back. Originally, it was the woman who owned everything, all of the land, all of the riches, all of the knowledge. Everything comes from her, just like I told you when we're talking about the X chromosome. Everything comes from the feminine. Now, this is not a diss to my brother. This is not saying anything negative about him or anybody else. We're just giving you the facts, all right? So let's understand that the woman was overtaken by the male. And we know that when a people are conquered, then their history is rewritten. Let's be clear on this. When a people are conquered, this goes all the way back. Anytime somebody goes into a territory and they conquer the people of that territory, they're going to rewrite their history. So we're going to go into this as we dive into who the Sibyls and the Oracles were and why they played such a great role, and why they were written out of their own history, okay? So we're understanding now that, and again, you go and do your own research, but as we go through this, we're going to speak on etymological proof of women being the rulers in history. We're going to speak on some legal proof and legal documentation showing that everything came through the woman. We're going to speak on some historical documentation, and I'm just making a note, all right? Did I say etymological? All right, we're going to speak on some things, and I've already spoken on the physical and molecular proof about it is the woman that was the original and the originator of the race. One of the things that we also understand is that the man comes from the woman. She was taken over. We're going to go into some, what I always like to get into, universal laws about how we can see that this has happened to the woman and why she's in the place where she is in now and what is about to happen. Okay, so as we understand these things about the original order on this planet was matriarchy. Now we want to recognize what happened at that time and how and why she was taken over, why she was conquered. All right. So according to my research, it was the woman who created the male. The male comes once again from the woman. We see this when we look at molecular structure. Now, if you go back and look in some of the ancient scriptures, you'll see that there were quote unquote gods on the planet, and they had the ability to procreate on their own. Some of us know about the Anunnaki, but there were also other beings on the planet that had the ability to procreate on their own, and they were feminine. When we look at the Bible, if we were to go and look at the earlier writings of the Bible before the names of the gods were taken out, those gods in there were mostly feminine gods. They were feminine or female gods. And not God. No, I notice I didn't use the term goddess. I don't even want to get into that, the difference between God and goddess. But notice I didn't say goddess. I said female or feminine gods. And they had the ability to procreate on their own. Now, when you start talking about some of these gods, you'll hear the term androgynous used. And so we're going to get into that. We're going to get into these gods and the androgynous nature of these characters. Okay, so what I want to do now, because this is titled Sibyls and Oracles, Women's Roles in History, what I want to do is go into who these Sibyls and Oracles were. We're going to define what a Sibyl and Oracle is. Now, I want to speak on the Bible, because the Bible is a construct of scriptures. Now, the Bible comes in 325 AD. So we got that time BC, then we got that 0 time. This is supposedly when Jesus was born. And then we've got AD, for those of y'all who are not familiar with it. So there's BC, and they try to introduce all of these BCE and whatever, but let's just keep it simple. BC, supposedly before Christ, and then this birth of Christ, and then AD, all right, is when the Bible, the first Bible, supposedly came into being. But it is a canonized version of scriptures which were here long before the Bible ever came into being. So these scriptures were written, and then somebody canonized, meaning they're taking certain scriptures. I'm going to take this scripture and this scripture and this scripture, I'm going to put it in here. But the scriptures were around. They're so old they can't be dated. Now, the question comes into play, where do these scriptures come from? That's the question that we need to start asking. Where did these scriptures come from? And then this is when these terms, Sibyls and Oracles, come into play. I want to take a look at what is the definition for a Sibyl. All right, there it is. Let me move out the way. All right. Sibyl, a woman supposed to possess powers of prophecy, a female soothsayer. 1200 from Old English Sibyl, from Latin Sibylla, from Greek Sibylla, a name for any of several prophetesses consulted by ancient Greeks and Romans. All right. So this was a woman who could foretell the future. She could prophesy. And in a lot of cases, one of the things in my research I found about these Sibyls, see, when you look up the term Sibyl, they're showing you a lot of Albion women. Now, I don't want to make this about race, but let us be clear that history has been whitewashed. And I have to say that every time, because when you go and look up these things, they're showing you images and they're not telling you the truth about who these people were in the past. These were not so-called Albion women. Let's also make this clear. Your Sibyls were people who really, they did not hang with society. They were not women who walked with others. They tended to hang by themselves. They'd be off in the woods, or they have places where there were not a lot of people around. All right. They were also known to, in a lot of cases, be androgynous. They might look a little strong. I just say it like that. But they had a high knowledge of the laws that govern this dimension, and this gave them the ability to prophesy. Sibyl, a woman who they say, and they're using these terms, supposed to possess powers of prophecy. They did because they had knowledge of these laws right here. One of the things, if you all will go back and check those sessions where I'm talking about the DNA, the X chromosomes, and how women have 2 X chromosomes, one of them they're not tapping into. Well, Sibyls were tapped in. They had access and they had knowledge. So all of this stuff about a supposed possessed, no, they did. All right, let me go into what an oracle is. All right, now when we see oracle, and those of us, when we think about oracles, this is great. I love that movie, Matrix. All right, this was the first oracle that we knew from that movie, Matrix. That's who we see as an oracle. That's by right. They got it right in the movie. All right, what is an oracle? Right, an oracle is, and notice these are women. A message from a God expressed by divine inspiration through a priest or priestess. They're saying priestess. Okay, a priest. A feminine being is the one who was giving this information in answer to a human inquiry, usually requesting some future event, divine announcements. Once again, it was the women who had the knowledge. It was the women who knew these laws. And what happened is she started teaching the son these laws. And so now we're going to go into etymology. And let's understand this term, Mason. And I said it before. So let's go ahead and define Mason.